Well, both political conventions set ratings records here at home, and overseas in Europe, interest was huge as well. Barack Obama achieving rock star status in places like Berlin. That was even the stuff of his opposition campaign commercials to sort of take a few digs at him about. Well, now Sarah Palin is stealing some headlines as well. CNN's Becky Anderson has reaction to the conventions live from London. What do they think across the pond, Becky?
Well, let me tell you, they have been massively well-watched, these US conventions, and the headline writers across Europe really been having a field day on a regular basis, on a daily basis. You'd think here, if you didn't know better, that this was a Barack Obama-Sarah Palin contest. Let's start off with Barack Obama, because polls leading up to these conventions showed that if Europeans had the vote, he would sweep to victory with something like 80% support. His speech, of course, in Berlin only serving to put him on a higher pedestal than he'd been before. It was an absolute triumph as far as many Europeans were concerned. But then, of course, came that Sarah Palin speech. This is what some people thought of that.
She's a mother, she's raised 5 children, and fair enough, her daughter's got pregnant at 17, but I think she's probably a decent family woman who's managed to pursue a career as well, which we take our hat off to, really.
Well, she's a bit, I don't know, she's got like lots of family problems, doesn't she? Doesn't seem like the ideal candidate in an well, for the American people, especially the Republican Party.
Well, there you go. She has, though, had commentators and the general public alike drawing parallels to Margaret Thatcher, calling her the US's Margaret Thatcher, described by one British journalist as America's Iron Lady, strident and self-confident, he said, immensely grating on those who don't like her, but immensely pleasing to those who do. And one of the more acerbic commentators in the Sunday Times described Palin's speech and the reaction to it like this: there's a whiff of baby oil and moose blood about her, a heady pheromone that rouses delegates to waggle their paunches at her. And the same Sunday newspaper printing this cartoon, I hope you've got it up there so you can see it, which rather sums up the way that commentators feel here. There's this sense, to a certain extent, that Sarah Palin should be running the Republican Party at this point and not John McCain. So that is very much the way that people are feeling here. Obama was sort of, heads and shoulders above John McCain before these conventions started, but after Sarah Palin's speech, there's an awful lot more interest in her at this point. Guys?
That's really interesting. As you said, it's almost as though there's a Barack Obama-Sarah Palin contest. What about McCain or Joe Biden? What is the interest in them?
Well, dare we say it, Joe Biden really hasn't made any headlines here at all. And I've been struck by the fact that even McCain's speech, it was well covered here, but it wasn't covered particularly well by the press the following day. I think it was best summed up, though, by one blogger here in the UK, which described it this way: it is a narcolepsy-inducing contortion. That's how they describe John McCain's speech, and that's to a certain extent how they feel about him here. Not everybody, but those who are looking at these American elections and wondering whether John McCain is really the right man after the Bush administration, which has been incredibly unpopular in Europe, wondering whether John McCain, at his age, with a speech like that, is really the right man for the job. Guys?
It's safe to say not a lot of GOP fans across the pond this morning.
No.
Becky Anderson, thanks so much for being with us.